Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our journey through the history of the Ottoman Empire. Today, we turn our attention to the 28th Sultan, a figure who often slips through the cracks of history, overshadowed by his more famous predecessors and successors. His name was Osman III, and his reign, though brief, offers a fascinating glimpse into the life of a prince who spent an astonishing 51 years in seclusion before ascending to the throne. Born in 1699 at Edirne Palace, Osman was the younger son of Sultan Mustafa II and Isuver Sultan. His early childhood was marked by the dramatic events that led to his father E's deposition in 1703. Following this, the young Osman, just 4 years old, was taken to Istanbul and confined to the Topkapi Palace. This wasn't just any residence. It was the infamous cafes, or the cage, a system designed to prevent succession crises by keeping potential heirs under strict supervision. For Osman, this gilded cage would be his home for the next 5 decades. Life in the cafes was a strange mix of privilege and prison. He was surrounded by luxury but stripped of freedom. He received an education befitting a prince, studying literature, history, and theology. He had servants and companions, but his world was incredibly small, confined to the palace walls. Imagine spending half a century in the same place, watching the world change from a distance, seeing your relatives rule and pass away, all while waiting for a destiny that might never arrive. This long confinement is said to have deeply shaped his personality, making him introverted, meticulous, and perhaps a little eccentric. In 1754, the moment finally came. His elder cousin, Mahmud I, passed away, and at the age of 55, Osman was brought out of the cafes to become the Sultan of the vast Ottoman Empire. The transition must have been jarring. After a lifetime of quiet routine and isolation, he was suddenly the most powerful man in the realm, responsible for millions of subjects and an empire stretching across 3 continents. One of the first things people noticed about Sultan Osman III was his dislike of music and musicians. This is one of the most frequently cited aspects of his personality. Given his long years in the cafes, where he likely had his fill of courtly entertainment, it's possible he simply developed a strong preference for silence and tranquility. Some accounts even say he banished all musicians from the palace. Another famous anecdote is about his shoes. It is said that he had iron plates put on the soles of his shoes so they would clatter loudly as he walked. Why? So that the women in the harem would hear him coming and have time to make themselves scarce. He reportedly disliked the company of women and wanted to avoid any accidental encounters. These stories paint a picture of a man who was deeply uncomfortable with the social intricacies of court life, a direct result of his isolated upbringing. Despite these personal quirks, Osman's reign was not without significant events. He took his role as a ruler seriously, displaying a strong sense of justice and a desire for order. He was particularly concerned with the moral fabric of his capital, Istanbul. He issued a series of decrees aimed at enforcing public morality and modesty. For instance, he placed restrictions on women's attire, ordering them to wear more conservative clothing and limiting their time in public spaces. These sumptuary laws were not entirely new, but Osman pursued them with a particular zeal, reflecting his own conservative and austere nature. His reign also saw a major disaster strike Istanbul in 1755. A massive fire, known as the Great Fire of Hokapa, swept through the city. It raged for over 36 hours, destroying vast swaths of the historical peninsula. Thousands of homes, shops, and public buildings were turned to ash. In the aftermath, Sultan Osman personally oversaw the relief efforts and initiated a large-scale reconstruction program. This was a moment where his meticulous nature proved beneficial. He was deeply involved in the plans to rebuild ensuring that the city not only recovered but was also improved with wider streets and better infrastructure to prevent future catastrophes. Another significant architectural project during his time was the completion of the Nurus Manai Mosque. This magnificent complex, whose name means the Light of Osman, was started by his predecessor Mahmud I but was finished and inaugurated under Osman's patronage in 1755. The mosque is a masterpiece of the Ottoman Baroque style, a new architectural language that blended traditional Ottoman forms with contemporary European influences. Its grand dome, elegant minarets, and light-filled interior stand as a testament to the artistic vitality of the era. The inauguration ceremony was a grand affair, and it was one of the few times the reclusive Sultan made a major public appearance, leading the Friday prayer himself. This mosque remains one of the most beautiful landmarks in Istanbul and is perhaps the most enduring physical legacy of Osman III's reign. In terms of foreign policy, Osman's rule was a period of relative peace. The empire was not engaged in any major wars, a welcome respite after decades of conflict. He maintained the diplomatic relationships established by his predecessor and managed to keep the empire's borders stable. His focus was primarily internal, on administration, justice, and the well-being of his capital. He was known to be intolerant of corruption and bribery. He frequently changed his grand viziers, the highest officials in the government, in an attempt to find capable and honest administrators. In his short reign of just under 3 years, he appointed and dismissed several grand viziers, showing his impatience with inefficiency and his constant search for perfection in governance. However, his health, likely fragile after so many years of confinement, began to fail. In 1757, after a reign of just 2 years, 10 months and 16 days, Sultan Osman III passed away at the age of 58. He had suffered from a painful carbuncle or abscess on his leg, and despite treatment, it ultimately led to his death. He was buried in the new mosque, alongside many of his ancestors, rather than at his own Nurus Manai Mosque. So, how should we remember Osman III? He is often dismissed as a minor, eccentric figure, a footnote between more dynamic rulers. But his story is a poignant human drama. It's a story about the profound psychological impact of the cafe's system, about a man who spent a lifetime in the shadows and was then thrust into the brightest spotlight imaginable. He was a man of contradictions, a recluse who had to command an empire, a lover of order who inherited a complex and sometimes chaotic state, and a ruler whose personal austerity stood in contrast to the opulent Baroque art he patronized. His short reign was a quiet interlude, a moment of internal focus for the Ottoman Empire. He didn't lead armies or conquer new lands, but he tried to bring order to his city, uphold justice, and leave behind a monument of enduring beauty. His life is a powerful reminder that history is not just made of grand battles and political machinations, but also of the personal struggles and unique characters of the people who lived it. The story of the Sultan who hated music and wore noisy shoes is more than just a historical curiosity. It's a window into the soul of a man shaped by extraordinary circumstances. Thank you for joining me for this look into the life of Sultan Osman III. I hope you found his story as fascinating as I do. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into history. Let me know in the comments what you think about Osman's life and reign. See you next time.